You woke to the cold sweat tracing slow rivers down your forehead, the dry scent of desert sand seeping through the torn fabric of your tent. The thick sand invaded your lungs, heavy and grainy, as you stretched your fingers, calloused and stiff from endless labor. The rough cloth of your tunic scratched against your skin like a stubborn reminder. Today, like every day, you would shape the massive stones destined to become secret tombs, forever buried beneath the silent vastness of the Valley of the Kings. The hammer in your hand weighed more than usual, not just from fatigue, but from the deadly secret it bore. Every carving, every hidden chamber must remain unseen. A whisper buried beneath layers of rock and dust. The echo of chisel against limestone struck a slow, steady rhythm, counting the hours that already felt like centuries in your aching bones and muscles. Pale dawn light crept through the narrow entrance of the excavation, brushing the grainy walls with a faint, muted glow. The air hung thick with the scent of warmed stone and drying clay, mingling with the faintest trace of sweat and dust that clung like a second skin. Each breath you took was gritty, each movement deliberate and slow. Your footsteps echoed softly on the hard-packed earth, sharp taps that seemed unnervingly loud in the heavy silence. The ambient heat pressed against your back like an invisible weight. Distant winds whispered across the dunes, their voices carrying secrets you dared not understand. The cracked surface of each stone felt cool and rough under your fingertips, like the unyielding patience of ancient earth resisting. Time itself, the routine wrapped around you like the coarse fabric of your robe, unavoidable, relentless, yet oddly comforting in its predictability. You thought of the frustration of modern life, emails piling up, deadlines chasing you like shadows in neon-lit offices, and realized that your toil was no less relentless, even if the tools were different. Here, the slow grind of rock replaced the sharp ping of notifications, the endless shifting of sand like the incessant tug of unwelcome tasks. You sighed softly, a quiet rhythm punctuating the repetitive motions. Lift, chip, inspect, repeat. But today something was off. The usual murmur of distant voices, other laborers moving somewhere beyond the curtain of stone, had stilled into an uneasy silence. You paused for a breath, listening. The desert wind fell strangely mute. Even the sand seemed to hold its breath. A faint shadow flickered at the edge of your vision, just a fraction too quick to catch, as if the very air shifted with hidden watchers. Your heart tightened, not in panic, but in the keen awareness of unseen eyes tracking every quiet move. The slow tick of time stretched taut. Your hands stilled, hammer suspended mid-air. The silence deepened, pressing against you like the weight of the stones themselves. Something unseen lingered, waiting. Before the moment grew heavier, a gentle invitation beckoned you to pause as well. Before Morpheus claims you fully, check with a soft touch if you remain subscribed. Leave a quiet like, tender as a down pillow, and whisper in the comments, where do you listen from, and what time marks your vigil? Your presence keeps this quiet space alive. Thank you for being part of this slow, secret world. You shifted your weight, feeling the uneven stones beneath your worn sandals. The light had barely brightened since dawn's muted glow had grazed the rough walls of your shelter. The silence remained intact, an almost tangible presence pressing against your skin. The desert air still hung heavy, though colder now, wrapped around the contours of your face like a faint, dusty veil. You inhaled slowly, the scent of dry earth mingling with the faint, metallic tang that clung to your palms from the hammer's handle. Your fingers tightened around the cool wood and worn metal, almost reluctant to begin the day's labor, yet knowing there was no reprieve. Cautiously, you stepped further into the tomb's hollow, each footfall a soft thud against the packed sand layer beneath fragments of shattered limestone. The shadows inside clung to the corners, reluctant to surrender their darkness to the creeping light spilling from the entrance behind you. It felt as if the stone itself held its breath. Your hand brushed against the side of a newly carved wall, still fresh, raw edges sharp beneath your calloused skin. The grit of stone dust settled between your fingers like fine sand, slipping slowly through an hourglass. Every grain reminded you of time past, lost moments swallowed by this silent, endless construction. The air hummed faintly with the slow, steady rhythm of the chisel tapping against stone, a pulse marking the tireless procession of hours. You paused, eyes narrowing as your chest tightened with a quiet awareness. The desert's usual distant murmur, the shifting winds, the soft brush of sand against the stone had stilled even further than before. The unnatural hush set your skin crawling. Somewhere deeper in the hollow, a faint scratching echoed. Not from the tools, but something subtler. A slow, rhythmic scrape, hesitant, yet persistent. You lowered your hammer, the rough leather strap grinding softly against your wrist. You inched forward, the grains beneath your steps shifting with soft whispers. The scent of warming stone grew stronger, mingling with the faint, acrid tang of ancient oils, faintly burnt from torches long extinguished. Your hand trailed carefully along the edges of the carvings, the cool texture a sharp contrast to the dry, rough atmosphere. The air seemed thickened, heavier with secrets. The quiet scratch traveled again, this time closer. You turned your head slowly, forcing your gaze away from the familiar, steady shapes of the stones. Light fractured at the mouth of an adjoining chamber, barely noticeable in the faint glow of morning. Here, shadows stretched long and thin, shapes twisting in the corner of your vision, tantalizingly just beyond full clarity. Your heart beat slower, steady, cautious, each thump echoing in the hollow spaces. You stepped toward the threshold, the dampness of the stone growing cooler beneath your feet. Fingers trailing against the rough surfaces, as if seeking to anchor yourself to the tangible world. The faint rustle of something shifting within the darkness brushed past your ears, soft, deliberate, and unsettling. The hammer felt heavier in your hand, the weight not from fatigue alone, but from the weight of a secret too cumbersome to name. Slowly, methodically, you let your breath steady enough to listen not just with ears, but with every fiber of your being. The silence was deeper here, pressing down with thick intensity, but within it, the scratch repeated, closer now, brushing against the rock with a heightened urgency. You tasted the dust on your tongue, dry and bitter. As you inched further, every sense heightened. Your fingers found the edge of an ancient stone slab, cool and smooth, almost out of place in the jagged array of fractured rock. With agonizing slowness, you pressed against it. The surface shifted slightly, a whisper beneath your touch. The weight of centuries seemed to shift with it, a secret boundary, a threshold between what was shown and what was hidden. Your breath hitched as a faint crack spread through the silence. The stone began to move, imperceptibly slow, like the first shy stirrings of dawn brushing the horizon. Dust drifted lazily down from the newly exposed crack, floating through the still air like spectral memories resurrected. Every tiny particle caught the fragile light, 1,000 minuscule sparks suspended in a silent void. You pulled back, heart curling tight in your chest, caught between the urge to press closer and the instinct to retreat. The rhythmic scratch stopped abruptly, leaving a vacuum in the thick, stale air. The whisper of sand against stone resumed outside, distant and unhurried, as if the world itself waited alongside you. Drawing a tentative breath, you allowed your fingers to rest lightly on the cold surface, feeling the roughness beneath, the slight tremor of stone barely held in place. You thought briefly of the faces you'd never see, the names forgotten beneath layers of dust and shadow. A slow shiver ran down your spine, the pull of unseen eyes still heavy on your skin, the weight of watchers not meant to be felt, yet impossible to deny. You took a step back, each movement deliberate, like the turning of an ancient ritual. The cool shadow of the newly revealed crack lingered behind you, an invitation and a warning entwined. The desert outside whispered once more, a low hum heralding the coming heat. Your skin prickled with sudden awareness. Something you had missed all along was waiting, patient, unmoving, just beyond the fragile veil of stone. You exhaled slowly, the air rough in your throat, as a single word settled like dust across your mind. Watch. And then, from the depths beyond the darkened threshold, a slow, deliberate breath echoed back. You step away from the cracked stone slab, your fingers lingering in the dust that clings stubbornly to the cool surface. The fleeting movement of the wall behind you has left a residue of tension that clings just as tightly as the desert sand on your skin. The silence inside the tomb feels thicker now, like a dark shroud settling over the chambers, and yet a small, stubborn pulse thrums beneath the stillness, as if the very stones breathe with restrained anticipation. You shift your weight, feeling the unevenness underfoot, grains of sand settling softly with each careful step. Your breath is steady but measured, the air dry and sharp against your throat. The faint metallic tang still lingers in your mouth, a ghost of the weight in your palm. You press your palm to the rough wall, grounding yourself. The texture is harsh, scratched with lines deep as forgotten history, yet cold like an old wound. Outside, the desert sun climbs slowly, sending a muted flood of light that barely penetrates the heavy gloom. Shafts of pale gold trace the worn carvings, shifting lazily, as if reluctant to disturb the tomb's somber embrace. The scratch returns, soft, deliberate, nearer now, brushing the stone like a hesitant caress. Your heart thuds quietly, a slow, steady drum beneath the layered dust. The air grows thicker here. The smell of burnt oil and dry earth intertwines, old and ancient, and your skin prickles under the weight of unseen eyes. You move forward, each step an exercise in patience and silence, sand shifting beneath your feet with a quiet sigh. The chill of the stone creeps up your arms, sharp and unyielding. Ahead lies a narrow passage, barely wider than your shoulders, swallowed by shadows so deep they seem to consume the light whole. Your fingers brush along the jagged edges of the walls, feeling the faintest tremor under your touch, like the slow heartbeat of the tomb itself. The walls close in, their surface broken by faint etchings, barely visible, ancient symbols worn smooth by centuries. You hesitate, the rhythm of your breath extending. Inhale, exhale, as you steel yourself to enter the passage. Every movement echoes softly, a whisper of presence in the vast emptiness. Dust swirls gently at your feet, stirred by the faintest draft sneaking in from somewhere distant. The air is colder here, sharp against your face, dry as forgotten bones. Your hand finds the small iron ring set into the wall, its metal rough and cold beneath your grasp. There's no haste in your movements. Each act is deliberate, weighted with the patience of timeless stone. You tug slowly. The mechanism resists first, stiff and reluctant, a stiff groan of ancient metal sliding against stone. Then, a whispered grind echoes deep within the chamber, stone shifting imperceptibly, the rough sands trembling beneath your feet. A thin crevice widens before your eyes, revealing darkness deeper than the shadows outside. The passage yawns ever so slightly, like a secret mouth opening to exhale centuries of silence. You catch your breath, a slow flood of thoughts pressing against your temples, tempered by the steady beat of your heart. The deeper darkness smells of dust and forgotten memories, heavy, almost suffocating. The chill wraps around you as you consider the space beyond, the mysteries it hides, the silent watchfulness lingering just beyond the faintest glimmer of light. The faint scratching sound resumes, closer now, deliberate in its cadence, like a slow tapping against stone rhythmically tested by unseen hands. You cannot see its source. The darkness swallows it whole, and yet your skin tightens with the quiet alarm of a distant whisper meant only for you. You lean forward, eyes straining, shadow hunting shadow, searching for the intangible presence that haunts these hollow halls. Outside, the desert wind moans softly, a distant lament cradled by the endless dunes. A small stone, loose beneath your foot, shifts with a muted clatter that reverberates through the passage. The sound seems too loud, too keen, a jarring note in the otherwise seamless silence. Your breath catches and then slows, steadying in the still air. The passage beckons, an invitation heavy with promise and warning intertwined. Your fingers trace the broken edges of the iron ring again, the memories beneath the stone stirring like latent embers. You step back slowly, the rough walls pressing in on your sides, as the thin line of light from the opening begins to fade in your vision. The tomb seems to exhale, a cold rush of stale air, sweeping past your face, carrying with it the weight of the past and the pull of unseen watchers. You feel the hammer's weight in your hand, a familiar burden, a steady drum of inevitability. The silence lingers, pregnant with the slow unfolding of secrets, waiting for you to choose. The scratch fades at last, leaving a hollow emptiness where tension once clung. A faint glimmer catches at the edge of your vision, a flash of something not quite there, like the tremor of a shadow folding into itself. Your heart tightens in your chest, the slow, methodical pulse shadowed by a whispered warning that settles deep beneath your skin. And then, as the cool stone presses against your back, the breath from the darkness speaks again, long, drawn, and deliberate, as if the tomb itself has opened its eyes just to watch. You stand still, your breath settling into a slow, measured rhythm, as the darkness just beyond the cracking stone lingers in the edge of your vision. The air here is heavier, thick like the memory of countless lives long vanished, pressing down upon your shoulders quietly but insistently. Your fingertips rest lightly on the rough surface, tracing invisible lines along the fractured edges where shadow and stone meet, as if reaching for secrets pressed far below the surface of the dusty silence. Somewhere deep within the hollow, the faintest echo of a movement stirs, a sound so soft it might dissolve into the still air. Your foot shifts against the hard-packed sand, tiny grains shifting like slow currents beneath your worn sandal. The cool touch of the stone wall anchors you in this timeless place, its coldness rubbing against your skin with the stubborn patience only ancient rock can hold. You inhale again, tasting the dry bitterness of dust and resin, a faint trace of smoke curling from torches long extinguished, still lingering like ghosts caught between moments. The heavier silence around you feels almost sacred, a slow breath drawn before the beginning of something barely imagined. You step carefully forward, each footfall careful and deliberate, the sand pressing softly beneath your weight, as if unwilling to reveal your presence to whatever might be watching. The shadow deepens as you move, clinging to the carved walls like a slow-moving tide, swallowing the feeble light that filters weakly from the entrance. Your fingers brush the rough surface beside you, feeling the faint tremor beneath the stone, as if the tomb itself pulses with a hidden life. The brittle air seems to thicken with every step, a dense fog of dust and time folding around you, whispering faint tales in a language you almost understand, just beyond your reach. Ahead, the narrow passage yawns silently, its threshold outlined in jagged stone, worn by centuries of neglect and the soft touch of countless hands. The cold here bites quietly, creeping up the sleeves of your tunic, settling deep within the bones of your arms and legs. You press your palm to the fractured edge, feeling the stubborn grit of limestone beneath your palm, the scraped surface cracked and ancient, etched with marks that seem almost deliberate, not just the work of time, but perhaps the careful hand of someone who shaped this space with intent. A faint scratching begins again, softer now, hesitant, like the tentative scrape of fingernails, tracing a secret message on a wooden door long closed. Your breath catches, slow and tense, as the noise pulses in the shadows, teasing your senses. Nothing moves visibly, but the weight of unseen eyes presses against your skin, steady as a slow heartbeat in the silence. You hesitate, letting the stillness settle like dust in the corners of your mind, a cushion for the pounding rhythm in your chest. You glance back toward the cracked slab, the faint outline still shimmering faintly in the dim light, a whisper of the opening you disturbed moments before. Your fingers twitch involuntarily, a pull toward the fragile promise of what lies beyond, an unseen chamber shut tight for centuries, holding its breath beneath layers of stone and history. Yet your body resists, balancing carefully between the urge to uncover and the instinct to retreat, the slow dance of caution threading through each movement. The narrow passage draws you deeper, the walls closing in with a silent, pressing intimacy. The carved lines on the stone grow sharper here, as if whispering forgotten words. You reach out again, fingertips grazing the smooth curves of ancient glyphs, carved with painstaking patience. The rough edges scratch softly at your skin, grainy and cold, as you follow the delicate patterns, winding deeper into the darkness. A faint wind stirs inside the tomb, a subtle exhale that shifts the sand beneath your foot, stirring dust motes in a slow, lazy swirl that catches the dim light like tiny stars suspended in a velvet void. You pause just inside the passage, senses stretched taut, listening to the hollow echoes hanging in the air. The scratching sound resumes, with a faint new urgency lingering on the edge of your hearing, like a breath held for eternity. It's slow and rhythmic, a measured scrapping that seems almost deliberate. Tested hands exploring, or perhaps something older, moving in time with the slow pulse of your heartbeat. The air tastes sharper here, thinner, colder, a stale breath of time trapped beneath heavy stone. Your fingers find the iron ring again, the metal cool and rough beneath your grasp, its weight solid and real against the flickering shadows. You grasp it slowly, feeling the resistance of the ancient mechanism holding steady beneath layers of dust and quiet years. The sound of shifting stone reaches you, a low grinding whisper that stirs the uneasy air, pulling back centuries with slow, deliberate intent. The passage widens imperceptibly, the darkness yawning like a mouth willing to speak long-hidden truths. You lean closer, the damp chill crawling along your skin, the silence tightening around you. Like a drawn veil, the delicate scrape settles into a subtle rhythm, pulsing through the air like a slow chant. Your heart beats steady, slow and sure, every breath filling your lungs with the dust and shadows of this hidden place. A faint glow hints just beyond, a colorless shimmer, like pale moonlight filtered through stone. Within that fleeting light, a shape stirs, barely seen, barely there, shifting with a softness that sends a shiver trailing down your spine. You pull back instinctively, the rough stone pressing against your back, as a breath from the shadows comes again, long, deliberate, lingering on the edge of night and silence. Your skin prickles, the weight of watching eyes settling deeper, folding around you in slow, patient expectation. The air feels thicker now, caught between moments, and the careful sound, the scratch, drifts once more, light as a whisper, as if the tomb itself exhales a secret meant only for you. A faint glimmer flickers in the shadowed corner, just a breath away from the edge of your vision. You hold your breath, heart tight, senses straining for the unseen. Then the quiet voice of stone and silence speaks again. Slow, deliberate, and unyielding, as if the ancient tomb has opened its eyes at last, inviting you deeper into its eternal vigil. You stand motionless for a long moment, the cool stone pressing solidly against your back as your fingers linger on the rough surface beside the yawning passageway. The faint breath from the darkness drifts once again, slow, deliberate, as though the tomb itself were exhaling secrets into the stillness. You feel the weight of those silent eyes again, unwelcome yet impossible to ignore, folding patiently around your skin like a heavy, unseen shroud. Careful not to disturb the fragile calm, you turn your gaze back toward the deep cavern ahead, where shadows coil like thick smoke, refusing to release even the dimmest hint of light. The passage narrows here, pressing in with unyielding cold, each uneven step soft against the dust-hardened earth. Your breath floats before you, the faint mist of heat, meeting the chill like a hesitant whisper. The scratching sound returns, irregular now, teasing the edges of your hearing, a hesitant caress that slips between heartbeat and breath. You move forward slowly, weight shifting with exquisite caution, sandals stirring tiny clouds of sand that fall gently to the ground. Your palm brushes against the carved wall, the texture a rough, familiar friend, scratched lines tracing silent histories beneath your touch. The air tastes thick, mingling kiln heat and old smoke, a quiet perfume of secrets half forgotten. Each step carries you deeper into the sanctuary of stone, the overwhelming quiet broken only by the rhythmic scrape that pulses like a heartbeat summoned from the earth itself. The faint glimmer from before flickers again at the edge of your vision. You strain, muscles taut, catching fragments of movement, almost a form, shifting just beyond solid sight. Your heart's slow thump grows steadier, not with fear, but with an acute awareness, a tether pulling you further into the stone's embrace. The shadows here pull tight, as if the tomb itself resists your progress. A cold draft brushes your neck, sharp against the bare skin there, stirring dust motes that dance like slow embers in the faint light. Ahead, the passage widens slightly, cradling an ancient door, its surface rough-hewn, knotty with carvings wrapped in obscure curves. You trace your fingertips over the metal ring once more, the cold iron biting softly into your palm. There is no urgency in your movements, only the persistent patience carved into your bones by endless days of labor. You tug slowly, resistance grating softly under the shifting rock as the door yawns open with a sigh, like breath released after a century. A sudden wave of dank, stale air rises to greet you, heavy with the scent of mold and crushed stone, a grave perfume that clings to your lungs like a final handshake from hidden tombs. Beyond, A cavernous hollow stretches away into suffocating darkness that seems to swallow even sound itself. The faint scraping noise grows steadier, punctuated now by an echo that barely stirs the heavy hush, like the slow scrape of weathered claws tracing secrets in the stone. Your fingers curl tightly around the hammer's worn handle, the familiar weight anchoring you firmly to the present. The temperature drops subtly, a coolness sinking deep beneath your skin, threading through your veins like whispered warnings. The air feels layered, thick with the residue of vanished lives, dust cloaked in silence, and the palpable pulse of history pressing down from every cracked surface. You step tentatively through the doorway, the ground beneath your feet uneven and soft, swallowing the sound into the endless stillness. Walls rise around you, ancient and unyielding, etched with faint glyphs, so worn they seem almost to blend into the shadows, ghostly sigils inscribed by hands long fallen to dust. Your eyes adjust to the dimness, catching the faintest shimmer of something, too slight, too quick to hold, dwelling just beyond your sight. The scratching stops abruptly, leaving a vacuum that presses heavily against your ears and throat. Your breath hangs motionless, suspended by the weight of what waits unseen. The silence coats everything, thick as tar, broken only by the soft shifting of sand at your feet. Murmuring old songs into the dark, suddenly a slow, deliberate exhale drifts close, so close it seems to brush your cheek, cold as a ghost passing just beyond the veil of touch. You freeze, muscles tensed like taut cords, senses heightened beyond all measure. The hammer trembles lightly in your grasp, not with fatigue, but with something unspeakable, an echo of the tomb's heart beating faintly beneath your skin. A thin glimmer of pale light pulses deep within the cavern, a flicker like distant stars caught in a stone sky. Shapes take form in the periphery, shifting, folding, almost human, but never quite. Your breath stutters, tight in your chest, as the presence steps closer. Its rhythm slow and unyielding, matching the scraped cadence that breathes life into the shadows. You retreat a careful step, feeling the rough stone close behind you, an unspoken boundary drawn with patient hands. The air tightens again, the weight of unseen watchers pressing in, waiting, always waiting. And then, just as the flickering light dims and the silence resumes its heavy vigil, a chilling whisper unfolds across the stillness, a secret word, cloaked in dust and shadow, settling deep inside your mind. Return. You stand frozen for a moment longer, the subtle breath from the shadows curling against your cheek like a fragile thread of cold silk. Your fingers, still grasping the worn handle of your hammer, barely tremble, not from exhaustion, but from the mounting weight of unseen eyes pressing patiently into your skin. Every sound is unnaturally muted here, as if the tomb itself swallows noise whole, save for the slow, deliberate scratching that lingers just beyond perception, tracing time like a wary heartbeat. The air feels denser now, heavy with the scent of earth mingled with something faintly metallic and ancient, like rusted memories locked away beneath layers of stone. You lean your palm once more against the rough wall, noting the stubborn granules that catch under your nails. Dust swirls slowly at your feet, stirred by the faintest draft, a hesitant exhale that seems to ripple through the chamber like breath held too long. The shadowed passage ahead yawns wider, inviting and reluctant in equal measure. Your footsteps awaken the dormant silence, each sand-shrouded step swallowed softly, barely tapping against the hollow floor beneath layers of settled dust and forgotten time. Your gaze flickers to the faint glyphs carved into the jagged walls, eroded, faintly glowing under the thin light, their curves mysterious and deliberate, as if whispered messages from a bygone hand. The slow scrape resumes, nearer now, cautious, testing the very air with its rhythmic dance. You force your breath to slow, filling your lungs with dry, bitter air, touched lightly by the faint scent of burnt resin and stones warming gradually under unseen sun rays. A sudden chill brushes the nape of your neck, sharp and electric, recalling the dry heat of the desert just beyond the tomb's fragile veil. You press your hand more firmly against the cool stone, feeling the faint shudder beneath the surface, like a pulse, faint but steady, sympathetic to your heartbeat. Your eyes trace the uneven edges of an ancient doorway, revealed in the stone, its silhouette blurred at the edges by long neglect, an aperture between the tangible world and whatever slumbers beyond. With painstaking patience, you curl your fingers around the iron ring embedded within the frame. It resists your tug, a groan whispered from old hinges, protesting the intrusion into their long vigil. Slowly, inexorably, the door shifts, a subtle grinding note weaving seamlessly with the persistent scratch until the passage yawns just enough for a single breath of stale, cubic air to escape. It carries the scent of forgotten shadows and crushed limestone, thick and suffocating, heavy and cold. You hesitate, then step forward into the hollow beyond. The air immediately cooler, more oppressive, a glassy silence pressing against your skin. Each step feels awkward beneath your sandals, as if you balance precariously on the edge of a forgotten world. The walls rise steep and unforgiving, their surfaces cold and rough, etched with sigils so faint they almost dissolve into shadow itself. A faint glimmer presses against the darkness, teasing your sight, a shimmer like the ghost of a flame flickering at the edge of waking dreams. The scratching halts suddenly, abrupt, a void of sound that intensifies everything else. Your breath hangs suspended in the stillness, every nerve stretched taut, listening, not just with ears, but with skin and soul. The silence is profound, the kind that seems to wait patiently, expectantly, as if the tomb beckons you forward on fragile concessions. A slow exhale returns from the darkness, a whispered presence that brushes past your cheek, delicate as the slow drifting of dust caught in a golden sunbeam. Your heart slows, measured and deliberate, syncing with the pulse that seems to emanate from the very stones beneath you. Shapes flit just beyond your vision, ephemeral, shifting with the soft cadence of the scratch. Almost human, never quite. You retreat one careful footstep, the rough stone pressing reassuringly against your back, an anchor amidst the wary shadows. The air thickens, almost tangible, a secret weight folding around you like a silent shroud poised over ancient bones. The faint glow dwindles, a pale flicker barely holding as shadows quicken into folds of silence. Your breath catches as a whisper unfolds beside you, or is it within you? The word, slow and grave, settles gently upon your mind. Return. A sound both invitation and warning, echoing beneath layers of dust and timeless stone, and lingering long after the quiet resumes. You remain motionless, every sense primed, the cool stone pressing solid as a boundary at your back. The faint breath flows once more from the darkened depths, a slow rhythm that almost mimics the beat of your own heart, measured, steady, patient. The stillness around you folds tighter, as if the tomb itself leans in, watching with eyes unseen. Then, soft as the sigh of wind through cracked windows, a faint pulse of warmth presses across your skin, a shaft of unopened light seeps through slivers high above, catching the dust in a golden spill, briefly illuminating the faded glyphs and the rough, enduring texture of the stone. The moment holds gently, delicate and fragile, before the cool shadow swallows it whole again. You know, with a certainty slow and inexorable, that the hollow space beyond the threshold has awakened, not with fury, but with an enduring watchfulness. Patient as the stones that have guarded it for countless centuries, your fingers tighten once more on the hammer's cool handle, the familiar weight a tether to the mortal world as the silence stretches ahead, pregnant with unseen promise. And in that silence, just before you take the next step deeper inside, the faintest movement flickers once again at the edge of your vision, an intangible shiver slipping between shadow and stone, as if the tomb itself breathes, waiting for you to answer its quiet summons. You stand rooted where the cold stone presses solid against your back, the faint breath from the dark whispering persistently at the edge of your skin. The faint shimmer before your eyes flickers again, a pulse of light barely holding among the shadows that stretch and fold around you like slow, restless tides. Your fingertips linger on the grainy wall, tracing invisible fissures where dust and time have gathered, ancient as the bones buried beneath the earth outside. The air tastes dry and sharp, clinging to the inside of your throat like fine sand caught in wind. Each breath you draw is measured, deliberate, an anchor in this silent vigil. The scratch returns, a soft scraping that mingles with the settling dust, hesitant yet relentless, as if an unseen hand tests the boundaries of this hollow tomb with cautious patience. You move at last, one foot shifting with exquisite care on the hard-packed earth, the sand beneath your sandal yielding softly, settling in quiet protest. Your eyes adjust further to the gloom, coaxing shapes into focus from the murky depths. A fractured glyph here, a glint of forged metal there. The coldness creeps from floor to fingertips, shadows curling long and thin around the edges of your vision. The weight of unseen eyes settles heavier now, twisting your nerves into stillness, as if your body itself is a thread tensioned within the vast, watchful loom of the tomb. Ahead, the passage stretches forward, narrow and unyielding, its walls pressed close like the ribs of a great beast, guarding a hidden heart. The muted gold of dawn leaks weakly through fractured openings far above, casting pale strands that slide like liquid dust across the carved surfaces. Every line worn deep by centuries catches the faint light, etched in somber silence. Each curve a story half remembered and shrouded in shadow. Your hand reaches once more for the iron ring embedded within the stone, a familiar coldness that bites softly at your palm and wrist, an extension of your own pulse. It resists at first, stubborn as the desert winds outside. Then, with a measured groan that threads through the still air, the stone shifts slowly, a yawning crack fracturing the space between worlds. A breath of cold, stale air escapes from the widened gap, carrying with it the scent of dust and decay, ancient mold, mingled with something darker. A faint iron tang that touches your senses like a vanished memory. You hesitate, muscles taut, heart steadying to a slow rhythm that slides in time with the scraping sound, which now wheels closer, an almost gentle rasp, touched with urgency. You step forward into the widening space, the ground falling away beneath your careful feet, into softer sand that smothers your footfalls and swallows the echo of each step. The cavern around you breathes with a patina of forgotten time, its walls cold and rough, scored with markings so faint they might have been left by a delicate finger tracing the past. Faint glimmers catch the low light here and there, dancing like motes caught between worlds. The scraping slows, becoming almost hesitant, a careful sound that presses at your hearing with its intimacy, A shape flickers at the periphery, too slight to name, too fluid to pin down, like smoke curling from a dying flame. Your breath lingers thick within your chest, slow and steady, as every sense tenses in synchronization with the subtle pulse of the tomb itself. A chill slips along your spine, sharpening your skin, and you press the hammer's familiar weight tightly to your side, the tangible tether grounding you in the waking realm. The darkness folds around you, immense and patient. You lean closer toward the source of the sound, the rough stone scraping at your palms as you steady yourself against the unyielding wall. The space feels alive with waiting, as if the very air holds its breath, waiting for your next move. The faint, ticking rhythm of the scratches beats softly in the hollow, a slow chant that seems to mark time as much as it measures distance. Dust drifts lazily from the ceiling, motes floating like tiny stars adrift in a quiet universe. Then the cold shifts further, and a muted glow pulses suddenly within the darkest corner, beyond reach, fragile and wavering. It stirs the shadows, bending them into flickers of form. Long limbs, twisting shapes, a presence close enough to brush your skin, but far beyond the grasp of sight. Your heart pulses with a hush deeper than fear, an acute awareness threading through you like slow-burning embers. You step back, the rough wall pressing hard into your spine, sealing you within this narrow cage of stone and silence. The air tightens once more, the breath of the tomb swirling slow and deliberate, heavy with the weight of old secrets. The scraping ceases abruptly, replaced by a thick stillness that hangs like a curtain drawn tight. At the fringe of your vision, a faint shimmer, slim, trembling, folds into itself and vanishes like a fading sigh. You hold your breath, every nerve strung tight in the dark, the slow exhale of the hidden presence curling again close to your cheek. And then, within the aching hush, a single, grave whisper reaches your mind, an echo from beneath stone and dust, born of patience and shadow. The word settles deep and sure, slow as the turning of the earth itself. Return. You remain still, muscles unwinding only slightly, the weight of silence heavier than stone. Your fingers grip the hammer's worn handle, feeling its steady heartbeat pulse against your palm. The faint breath drifts once more, soft as a breeze over cracked earth, as the tomb leans in with eyes unseen, waiting, watching, patient beyond all reckoning. Outside, the desert sun climbs higher, its light hesitant upon the lips of the tomb's mouth. The passing hours stretch vast and silent, and you know, without doubt, that whatever stirs beyond the shadows is already aware of you. And with that knowledge, the stillness deepens just before the faintest rustling begins. like the slow, careful unfolding of something long buried, beckoning you nearer, deeper, into the hollow heart of secrets yet unsaid. You stand still beyond the heavy stone door, the familiar weight of your hammer pressed steady in your hand. The stale breath from the dark lingered, brushing your skin like a cold whisper caught between a sigh and a secret. Around you, the tomb held its silent vigil, ancient walls pressing close as if eager to reveal or to hide, but never to forget. Your fingertips trace the jagged edges nearby, rough as old wounds, grounding you in this moment struck between the pulse of past and present. The air, sharp and dry, clung stubbornly in your throat with the grit of forgotten centuries. You breathed out slowly, feeling the dust settle around you, drifting faintly like ghosts suspended in invisible currents. The soft scraping resumed, timid, deliberate, the slow rhythm that throbbed at the edges of your senses, tracing the contours of silence with an eerie patience that seemed woven into the very stone. Each footstep forward was an act of purpose wrapped in caution. The sand beneath your worn sandals shifted softly, barely, a muted chorus that seemed too loud in the overwhelming hush. You moved cautiously, hand skimming the cold wall, feeling the grainy surface pitch beneath your palm, as if murmuring stories carved long ago by hands you would never know. The chill crept along your forearm, quiet, insistent, reminding you that the tomb was alive in its stillness, holding its breath as you passed. A faint glimmer caught your eye, flickering like a faraway flame through the thick shadow, too brief and elusive to grasp fully. The walls seemed to tighten, narrowing the path until only a sliver of muted light survived. The carved glyphs along the stones blurred softly in the gloom, their worn shapes curling like ancient waves, their hermetic meanings lost in time's slow wash. You traced their weathered edges. With slow reverence, each impression a fingerprint, pressed deep into the bones of the earth. The scratch stirred once more, closer now, a careful caress, scraping against the rock's surface. Your heartbeat slowed to match its rhythm, steady and measured, unhurried like the pulse of the tomb itself. You felt, rather than heard, a shift in the shadows, a breeze or a breath, subtle as the fading glimpse of dawn before sunrise. The air tasted bitter with dust and something faintly metallic, like the ghost of iron whispered long ago, touching your tongue without words. Ahead, the passage opened into a wider chamber, a muted, cavernous stretch folded in silence and waiting. The cold deepened here, pressing like a second skin around your limbs, chilling the marrow in quiet insistence. Your fingertips brushed the iron ring, set low inside the stone, its surface rough and cool, an anchor to what was real and enduring. Slowly, Your fingers curled around it. The mechanism groaned softly, threading a sound so thin it nearly dissolved into the shadows. The stone crept outward with agonizing patience, revealing a yawning gap where darkness pooled thick like ink. A stale breath exhaled from the opening, a scent of decay and ancient dust mingled with the faintest trace of burned oil. A bitter perfume clinging to your lungs. The air around you thickened, laden with the unspoken, a heavy presence folded into the very fabric of the chamber, waiting just beyond the threshold. Your feet shifted, pressing soft and heavy into the sand-laden floor. The hollow around you held tight, carved walls rising tall and formidable, there. Surfaces textured with faint sigils, barely visible beyond the dim glow. The faint scent of old smoke, long extinguished, wrapped around you like a slow embrace. Each step swallowed its own sound, smothered beneath the thick quiet that folded in on itself like a drawn curtain. The scratch hesitated, then resumed with new urgency, a deliberate scrape that rung steady like slow-spoken hearing. Shapes flickered at the edge of vision, shadows bending and shifting. Just beyond sight's reach, neither fully human nor entirely of stone. Your breath caught in your chest, a slow tension threading through your bones, a quiet warning stirred like embers beneath ash. You pressed your back against the rough stone once more, the familiar grain anchoring you to the here and now. The air grew colder, wrapping a chill along your spine, as the unseen presence pulsed near, breathing with a rhythm that echoed your own. You reached out, fingers grazing the uneven wall where the faint glow wavered, and for a moment the shards of stone and shadow trembled as if alive. The silence thickened suddenly. The scratching ceased, leaving behind a void heavy as night. Your breath lingered, the pulse of your heart the only sound in the stillness. At the corner of your vision, a faint shimmer unfolded, a slender flicker folding into nothing, as if the dark itself was breathing secrets too fragile to hold. Then, a whisper rose from the depths, slow and grave. It brushed your ear, a word filled with the weight of centuries, carrying both an invitation and a warning. Return. The words settled deep inside your mind, cold and deliberate, echoing in the hollow cavern like a distant drum beneath the stone. You remained motionless, fingers tight around the hammer's worn handle, the familiar heft steadying you against the pull of shadow and dust. Outside, the sun crept higher, sending hesitant light to the edge of the tomb's mouth. The silence pressed thick between moments, stretching until time itself seemed to breathe with suspended patience. The faintest sound stirred at the edge of hearing, a delicate rustle, soft as the fall of sand sliding through open cracks. The shadows shifted hesitantly, folding deeper into the earth's slow secret, and you knew, with a certainty slow as stone, that whatever waited beyond the hidden threshold was awake and watching still, poised to reach out beyond the veil of silent darkness. The slow, deliberate breath from the shadows fades into a calm stillness, leaving you wrapped in the thick, ancient silence. Your hand loosens its grip on the hammer's worn handle, the familiar weight falling away as both a burden and a balm. The dark space beyond the cracked stone remains motionless now, waiting no longer, as if you have answered some wordless call whispered across centuries. You step back gently, the soft grains shifting underfoot like the last sigh of a long-held secret giving way. The narrow passage closes softly behind you, the ancient door sliding shut with a faint groan, an ending that resounds with the quiet dignity of finality, not a gesture of confinement. Light retreats into shadow, but the air no longer carries the tension it once held. Instead, it feels lighter, somehow touched by the release of what needed to be found and yet left untouched. As you emerge into the muted golden dawn, the desert greets you not with harsh heat, but with a gentle warmth that seeps slowly into your bones. The sun climbs steadily, spilling light across the endless dunes, each grain a tiny mirror, catching moments now folded into memory. The air is softer here, the stiff scent of sand and stone, giving way to a breeze that whispers ancient lullabies through the grasses at the edge of the valley. You breathe in deeply, the dryness settling deep in your lungs, but less oppressive now, like the quiet exhale of a vast land finally at rest. Your calloused fingers trace once more the memory of the hammer, as if to thank it for carrying the weight of so many unseen stories. The stones behind you stand still, silent witnesses to time's patient passage, and you feel, perhaps for the first time in this long vigil, the gentle pulse of peace threading through the heaviness. A faint smile touches your lips, not from triumph or revelation, but from an acceptance of the slow cycles that hold sway here. The tomb's secrets remain, as they always will, hidden pockets of shadow and light, but the restless stirrings have quieted. You catch sight of distant shapes, laborers arriving with fresh tools and steady hands, faces bearing the same quiet resolve that marked your days. Life, after all, continues in slow, deliberate rhythms, each blow of the chisel a step toward preservation, remembrance, and letting go. Your feet find the cool shade of a rock outcrop where the coarse sand yields to a smooth, worn surface. You sit, letting your shoulders release the years of tension carved into them by endless toil. The wind carries faint sounds of life beyond the endless stretch of stone. A bird's distant call, the soft rustling of leaves, the delicate brush of time moving forward. It is a subtle symphony, as ancient and gentle as every whispered word you heard in that hollow chamber. You close your eyes, the sun's warmth spreading like soft amber honey across your skin. The memory of scratching stone, of shadows shifting at the edges of vision, now blends into a quiet hum, an echo of history's heartbeat slowing at last. The weight you carried, of secrets kept and stories buried, feels lighter, less a shackle, and more a thread, woven quietly into the fabric of the desert itself. As the day unfolds, the sky deepens with colors no longer harsh, but tender, pale blues melting into the soft blush of dusk. The cool breath of evening settles in, wrapping the valley in a gentle embrace. Your thoughts drift, unhurried, chipped away like fragments of weathered limestone, each one shaped by patience, marked by resilience. Before you, the endless sands shimmer under the setting sun, each ripple a quiet monument to the unseen hands that shaped this place. And though the tomb's silent watchers dwell in shadows beyond sight, their vigil has changed. From expectation to rest, you lean back, the rough stone pressing steady against you, like an old friend welcoming you home. The hammer rests beside you, no longer heavy, but part of you, an extension of all that you have endured, all that you have protected. The valley exhales with you, a breath carried softly on the desert wind as twilight deepens. The stars begin to glimmer faintly overhead, distant flames in a velvet sky. Their light, gentle and persistent, seems to stitch together the fragments of the past and present in a cosmic tapestry, both vast and intimate. And here, amidst the cool hush of sand and stone, you find peace, a slow quieting of the mind, a gentle surrender to the embrace of night, enduring stillness that settles gently over your weary spirit. The quiet lulls, a soft embrace against the dark. You close your eyes for the last time and feel the slow drift of sleep, sweet as desert wind over endless dunes. Rest well. The stones keep their secrets safely, and now so do you.